In this movie, we'll continue to look at some additional features available for Element with the purchase of model packs and take a view of some of the advanced settings.
In this movie, we're going to explore Element a little bit further by diving deeper and taking a look at the particle replicator effect. We're going to see a few other things along the way under the scene setup menu inside of Element. I'm going to select the Element layer in my Chapter 4.3 composition and head over to my effect controls where I've already applied Element. I'm going to step inside the scene setup. Here, one thing we didn't look at earlier is the ability to create primitives. If I click on this button, you're going to see my ability to create a cube or something like a sphere. The sphere gets added to the scene, and what I want to have this replicate on another layer is this to be extremely small. So with my sphere selected, I'll go over to the Edit panel, and I'm going to go down to the Scale section and decrease this to 20%. And now I'm going to hit the Z key just to scale this up again. This is great. And from the Presets tab, I'm going to apply a material from the Physical folder. I'll head down here and take a look at a couple of the different materials and apply a basic white material to my sphere model. Excellent. Now I'm going to hit the disclosure triangle to reveal the white material, and I want to make a few changes. So I'm going to go into the Edit menu, and inside the Edit menu, I want to scroll all the way down until I see the Reflectivity section. I want to increase the intensity here from 0 to 40%, and right away we're going to start to see something reflecting on that sphere. Here you can see the texture or environment currently being reflected. I'll just close that out. I want to switch this out by going to the Presets tab, going into the Environment folder, and you can see here I got some basic 2K elements that I can use as environment layers. I'm going to select the basic 2K02, apply that to the scene, and now if I head up into the Environment tab, you'll see that I can manipulate these settings. So I want to increase the gamma just a little bit and increase the contrast just to create a more moody scene that you see in front of us. I'll hit OK to accept that. And you can see that that's now shining in the sphere as I see fit to make it a little bit more dramatic and awesome. So I'm going to click on this environment box so that we can actually see the environment in the background here within the preview window. And I want to turn off draft textures so you can actually see that even a bit better. Zooming out here on the scene, get a great sense for the environment that's being reflected on our sphere. I'm going to go back to the environment checkbox and just turn it off. And you can see the environment still, of course, in the sphere. Now, what we want to do is actually have a statue that we replicate spheres on. So in my model browser, I'm going to do a search for statue. You can see that that pops up there. And I'm going to drag this right into my preview panel. You can see there that it gets added. And it's going to be actually on a separate group right now, which is exactly what we want. I'm going to take this statue and actually increase its scale because we want it to be much bigger than the sphere. So I'm going to increase its scale to 1500% right now. Hit Z to zoom out. And I'm going to click just to zoom in and use my space bar and click to pan around the scene, just like in After Effects. Excellent. Let's just sort of preview around this scene here. And now we just need to flag this as the object that we want to replicate stuff on. So I have to go into the scene panel. And in the scene panel, I'm going to go into the group 1 settings. I'm going to click on this arrow, and on the far right-hand side, we're going to use this little replicator button to say, hey, I want to replicate things on you. That's all I'm doing is identifying that. It's going to be a part of the group 1 settings, just as the sphere model, before we send this over to After Effects, because we want them to be a part of the same group. And with these selected, I'm just going to go up to the top here on the right and press OK, back inside of After Effects. All we're going to see is the sphere right here by default. That's okay. We just need to do a couple things to activate this. So under group 1, I'm going to go into my particle replicator settings. And there's quite a few parameters that we can play with, but I'm going to change my replicator shape from a point to a sphere. And I'm basically replicating spheres on spheres right now. And the trick here now is to increase the particle count. I'm going to just scrub up here and you can see now more spheres, little spheres, being generated on my really big sphere. This is awesome. So this is one thing we can do simply by that. I've just undid that command by pressing Command Z. And we're going to change this to 3D object. Now, the 3D object that was inside Element, that statue, is what we are using to generate our spheres on. It's a little bit above our camera right now, but that's okay. We can use our Y position to lower that a little bit. I made it 890 there. So there's two things going on here. First of all, these spheres are way too big for our objects. So I'm going to go to the particles section, and here I'm going to close out the particle replicator and go into the particle look, where I'm going to bring down the size of the particles from 10 to about 1. Now we have a lot smaller particles being generated on this model. I'm going to hit C to activate the camera tool and then cycle with C until I get to my Track Z tool. I'm going to just zoom in here on the scene by clicking and dragging. Close out particle look, as you can see here. We're going to go into the particle replicator again. And under the particle replicator, 3D object percentage is really important. I'm going to increase this 10% amount to about 100 so that we can clearly see more particles on this model of our statue. Now we're looking at her backside. That's okay. We can easily open up the rotation section and add a Y rotation of 180 degrees so she can face forward. Excellent. So I want to close out some of these sections that you see here in the particle replicator, the scale and the rotation section. And really what I want to get into is located down here, the replicator effects. So one thing we could play with right away is the surface offset, just to show you one thing that we can do with all the particles being generated on this object. So we can play with surface offset, and I can increase this amount to 2. And once I do, you can see those particles get shifted away from the object. I'll hit Command Z to undo and go down to scatter. I'm now going to increase the scatter to about 90. So as you can see, these particles spread out everywhere in space. Let's add some keyframes to this scatter amount. I'm going to click here on the stopwatch to add a keyframe at the 0 frame mark, then move to 2 seconds and change the scatter value to 0. Now I want to select both keyframes by pressing U to reveal them. And I'm going to click on scatter just to select both keyframes and press F9 to easy ease the animation. Then to play it back, I'm going to move past my keyframe, press N to trim my workspace, and then hit the space bar to play back. And now you can see all these scattered particles move in between those 90 and 0% values to form the statue. So this is a cool animation that you can set up. Now picture adding cameras and other elements to spice up this animation even further. So what else can we do? I'll close out the particle replicator section and go back to the particle look. And let's add a little bit of a color tint to our particles. So I'm going to just choose this color right here. You can see that it's a little too saturated. So what I'm going to do is click and then just desaturate this a bit, adds a bit more white into the image, and that looks pretty good. So I'm going to close out my group sections, and we're going to head down to our render settings. And render settings are a great way to spice up our projects before we leave After Effects. So I'm going to go down to ambient occlusion and just enable ambient occlusion, which is going to allow some self-shadowing here on our object. I'll change the AO mode to ray traced to get a better quality ambient occlusion with the price of a longer export. I'm going to close out that section, close out ambient occlusion, and then head to glow. Let's enable glow and change the glow from illumination to luminance. You can see there that my particles are glowing a lot better. I'm going to increase the intensity to 0.5. Actually, let's change that to 1 just to get a slightly brighter particle look. Awesome. So these are a few things that you can do here with Element to change the render settings on our project. And over the last few movies, we've gone in to look at the surface of what Element has to offer. Now, if you're looking to find more information about Element 3D, please check out Chad Perkins' in-depth course on Element 3D located in the library.